Exit and continue. Sign into Miro.
Sharing the screen on the stream. Hello, anybody watching the stream, with the Miro board on it and with my Zoom window that shows the 4 of your faces. Let me see if I can put it down the side there, or the 3 of you and my face. Can everybody just access the Miro board themselves, and then we can just...
I think I'm
share
in.
in Zoom, or would you like me to open the screen share in Zoom so we know we're all looking at the same thing? Oh, great, it's Mona. Wonderful.
I guess. Hey, Mona.
I am going to share my screen as well then, just because I make it
yes.
easier for...
I thought I'd maybe just listen today and see what goes on in these meetings. And
well, this is a bit different this week. So Kate's suggestion was that we kind of, because we've been really good at having a retrospective at the end of each session. And last week, Kate volunteered in the retrospective to sort of write up a checklist of like how we run this, so we can get a little bit more systematic about doing the things that we do well each week. And
which was Blaise's idea, really.
and then so that's turned into, we're going to start this week by actually kind of talking about a working agreement for the ensemble. So and Kate's about to run that now. So we've got a Miro board here, and the link is in the new contributors channel, Mona, if you want to hop on. And you're welcome to just contribute as much or as little as you want.
Interruption is cool. And if you don't want to interrupt, you can always use a sticky note and just put it next to the Miro board. I pasted a copy of the draft that I compiled, and this is really just what I was thinking of. My first session with Matt, I asked him a little bit about Cucumber and the vision of Cucumber and what they are trying to do. And the one thing that really came out was that diversity is really important to them for the open source community. And obviously building a community is important because you are really reliant on volunteers to come. And that means it must be fun and engaging and satisfying for people to come. So what are those things? What can we say is the most important things for us to want us to come to these sessions on a Friday afternoon? So here I've got a few examples, but this is literally just as a baseline. The first one, I said diversity over being an expert. So it's really everybody is welcome, and we actually want different ages, different colors, different sexes, different beliefs, different cultures, pretty much everything, because yes, I truly do. I believe in diversity. Equality to me is pretty much the same thing as inclusion, but equality over control and perfection. This is more in line with what I was thinking the way we ran the previous time, which I really enjoyed. And Blaise and Matt, I don't know if you agree, but we did a proper mob session where we rotated, and that was really truly very engaging and a lot of fun. So that's where that one comes from. The inclusion over judgment is from improv, which is also a technique that we use a lot in gaming, where if you want the story to go forward, you need to build on it and include rather than but. So it's a yes, and we can do this, and not a no, but, or a yes, but I'd rather do that. So that's what that is about. But equality and inclusion can maybe be the same thing. Curiosity over criticism to me was about just trying things out. This is a new experiment that everybody is just, we need to enjoy it, and it needs to grow. Or Matt, I guess you need to jump in here and say if I'm on the right track. But we want it to grow and evolve and experiment different things. And if it works, we want to do more of it. If it doesn't work, we want to try something else. And that would mean we should feel free to suggest things and try things, and also fail sometimes and then try again. And then this one, to me, is the most important. Having fun over getting it right. To me, that is my primary value in life. If it's not fun, then I don't really want to do it. And work is the most fun thing in the world if you are enjoying it. And then collaboration, I just put it there because that is important, but that's pretty much, it should be a question mark as to what is most important to us as an open space. So why don't we all take sticky notes? And Blaise are making notes.
No,
why don't we all
whatever
make
you like.
sticky notes, or do you want to, yeah?
Yeah, I'll do sticky notes. That's fine. Whatever you
Or,
like.
or notes, it doesn't matter what. But if everybody can spend 3 minutes, yes, Matt?
It's okay. You can finish your sentence. I thought you had finished.
If everybody can spend like 3 minutes thinking about what is most important to them, write it on sticky notes. Or if you already agree with the ones on here, maybe just take a different color dot or something and add it there to say, I agree with that we vote for the most important ones. So first, let's just focus on figuring out what are the values that we feel is most important for us.
I think that's
what
good.
Did you want to say, Matt?
I just wanted to say that I noticed that only Blaise and Kate have a icon here in the Miro board, which means that Demi and Mona can't write sticky notes right now. That might be a choice, but I just want to make sure that if they want to be able to access the Miro board, they can, and we should take a moment to make sure we've sorted the mechanics out of that.
I tried, but I think it's because I'm connected to my work computer. It doesn't let me go through.
It didn't let me either. I had to go to the sign in or sign in with the other one as well. Otherwise, if you want, you can post it in the chat and then I can do it for you.
Does it help if I put an email address in here, Mona, maybe in the invite? And Demi, is it the same for you, or what happened? Because I've got it to anyone with a link can edit, so it should be that.
So I'm currently trying to access it, but it's walking me through like this whole like setup process and asking me what my team name is.
Maybe because you've never had a Miro account before.
Yeah, I haven't.
For you to kind of log in as a guest and not have to go through too much of that stuff.
Miro does that very well. And concept board, actually.
Is there anything we can do here to make it more?
You can also, if you like, Demi, you can drop stuff in the chat, and then either Kate or I can type it in for you on your behalf. Oh, you're in. You're in.
Yes, somebody's in.
Yeah.
Emmanuel.
Mona, is there anything we can do?
So Mona.
It's okay. I'll just watch and
okay. I'll keep an eye on the chat. So if you do feel that you want to contribute to the conversation there, then feel free.
How well does sharing permissions work for you? I'm going to have to give them like a sad face because Mona can't get in. Sorry. Yeah, I wonder why. Don't know how to make it fully public. Okay. So I'm going to go over here and do my sticky notes for a minute. I want to kind of not watch everybody else because I'm going to bias it, but then okay.
I suppose, Matt, if you like, you could type stuff in a text editor off.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then I could kind of convert them over. Yeah.
Copy paste.
Yeah.
Sure.
I love that one. Belonging and flow. Blaise, do you mind if I split this sticky note? I think it's yours into two.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, that's and
Because
those were
the
more.
ones,
Those were actually more. I wrote those up as observations about the values. I mean the current ones.
Okay, I could have set a timer. We could have set a timer on here. Would you reckon 2 minutes more?
Sure. That's
it's
perfect.
fine. I think if
Or are you happy to just do
everybody
it?
is, we only 4 people.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy to see
Well, I
who's
just set
still
that as a
busy and
reminder anyway, just so we can.
so maybe if you're done, then just go thumbs up so that I can see that you're done. Or actually, I think Miro added reaction somewhere.
Yeah, up at the top near the little. It's the megaphone next to the pointer.
Yes. So if you are finished, you can make a fire or something.
Okay.
Or a thumbs up or a heart or whatever you please.
I've got so many. I'm going to stop.
We'll get rid of them soon, don't worry. Okay, is everybody happy that we continue, or do you strongly feel that there's another word that you want to add?
I'm done.
Nope.
Okay, so we've got fun plus one, yay. Flow, which is a nice one. Belonging, learning. And I'm just quickly going to demonstrate what we're going to do next. We want to cluster them together to see if we can maybe find some patterns or commonalities. So for example, learning to me is very similar to curiosity. So I'm going to move it here so that these two maybe can be together. And safety is a good one. Bias for action is very similar to this comment, which is, can I move it here? Is it okay?
Yes, of course.
Blaise?
Anything you like. Anything you like.
Okay. And then there is safety. And this was also, these two were very much to do with the experimentation ones. So I'm going to cluster it together there so that they are just closely linked together. So it doesn't mean that it's the same thing. It just means that they are related to each other. Safety, representation. What do you mean with that? Or who added that one?
I want to see. I want us to be showing the world that you don't have to be a white guy to contribute to open source. I want us to be showing other people who aren't white guys out there that you can contribute to open source too. This is something that you can do, so that representation of people from all kinds of backgrounds.
Inclusion?
So would that be similar? Would it be okay if we move that to be clustered with diversity or not?
Yeah, it's similar. It's kind of like that thing we were talking about in Slack through the week about why it matters to do this on Twitch rather than just in a private Zoom call.
Yes.
And thank you to all of you for having the courage to do this stuff in public.
Safety, I really like. Leave no one behind. I love that one. Invitational, who added that one? And what did you mean with that?
Right. Well, I mean, it's kind of the nature of it being open source anyway, right? But invitational to me means everything is a choice for each person. You can say no at any time to any of the things. You know, if you don't want to turn your camera on, if you don't want to take part in part of it, if you just want to sit and watch, that's absolutely fine.
I added some comments. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Voluntary choice. Adaptive, who added that one? And what do you mean with that?
That was also me. It was a sort of a meta thing, really, which was inspired by something you said earlier when you were going through yours, but I forget which one it was, Kate, about the way that we're like reflecting on these sessions and then changing or trying different things out to make them work. So at a sort of meta level, I think it's helpful if these sessions are adaptive, and we make sure that we continue to reflect on how to run them so that they work for everyone.
Yep. So that's, I think, close to the experimentation. And then we've got here, I'm going up, unfold. What did you mean? Is that Demi that added that one, I guess, because it's a different color yellow, or
No,
is
that's me.
that Blaise?
I'm the light yellow.
What did you mean with that?
It was around curiosity. In other words, like discovering, like uncovering, revealing.
Okay. Can I add a note? Mainly for my...
Sure.
And engage, I like that one. Presence, progress. What did you mean with progress? And if anybody else, Demi, Mona, Matt, if everybody else has a question that they're not clear on what was meant with it, now is the time to ask.
Yeah, well, both of those, engage and presence, I would like to hear Blaise kind of speak to those a bit.
Yes, of course. I'm sorry. I think they were words that I wasn't necessarily mapping them to individual icons in the middle. I think it was more that presence was more simply that no matter how you choose to show up, right? It's a bit like the invitational thing. It's just that being involved or being engaged is preferable to not being involved or not being engaged.
I added one to say commitment.
Can I put invitational with that?
Yep, that's great. And equity, what was, you added that one, and what did you want to?
Yeah, that was me for that one.
Oh, good.
So it's sort of like, I don't know if it's in contrast or along with equality. So a lot of folks think they're the same thing, but there's actually like very subtle, I guess, important differences between equality and equity. So like equality would mean like, okay, everyone has the same amount of opportunity, but we also don't have the same amount of like, I guess, experience and skill levels and all that stuff. So maybe for some people, equality would mean that they actually don't get as much of a fair shot as some of the folks who are more experienced and who have those advantages. Equity would mean that maybe as a group, we're tilting towards the folks who don't have that experience or don't have that skill level, just to cater towards the folks who need, I guess, a little bit of like assistance in this area or assistance in that area. In that way, it's different from equality, because equality just means like everyone has equal footing, but that's not really the truth. I don't think everyone has equal footing in that sense.
I like that. I didn't think of it that deeply. So thank you for adding that. And then there was collaboration over isolation and judgment, gatekeeping. Who added those? And do you quickly want to briefly just take us through that?
Yeah, sure. I was thinking in terms of the inclusion over judgment. I was in my mind, I was trying to imagine or expand each of the terms. And so I think I think of judgment as being kind of like a gate, like pass fail. So in a sense, a judgment is final, whereas inclusion is more ongoing. And so I suppose, if someone asked me what I understood the distinction to be, I would say that inclusion allows for continuity and expansion, whereas judgment is marks the end of a particular possibility. Yeah, judgment removes future possibilities. Inclusion adds future possibilities.
Great. And collaboration over isolation, I think that one makes sense, but do you quickly want to say what you meant?
So collaboration is, it's a little bit like the judgment thing. Collaboration is the opposite. In other words, collaboration is where the whole is greater than the sum of the individual parts. And isolation simply means is perhaps the tendency to exclude external influences in favor of the single source.
Yep. I think that also speaks to our previous session with example mapping, where
Totally.
we came up with so much more than what we would have one person. Even if you are really intelligent, 3 people together are just more better. Cool. So did anybody want to add something, or can we vote for the most important and cluster them together?
Maybe we should cluster them before we vote.
Yeah. Okay, so I've already started clustering them, but that is pretty much moving everything that is related to the same vicinity. So feel free, you do not need permission. You can move whatever you want. If you feel that adaptive needs to belong there, then you move it there. If there is strong disagreement, we can talk about it, but usually there's not really. So quickly spend a minute or a few seconds just to move everything that should be together. Okay, this was just a note. Okay. So here's a group, and here's a group, and there's a group. There's one. You can move it around, that's fine. I'm just trying to make some sense. Wait, that one goes in there.
So I deliberately put the learning one in between these two because I kind of think they're the same.
Yeah.
I think the idea
I agree.
of like working in focusing on enjoying it and learning from it rather than being, efficient and effective is a kind of one thing really.
And wouldn't adaptive also fit into there? Why did you move that one?
I just feel like it's its own thing. We haven't really got anything else like this because it's meta. Because these are about sort of how we behave during the sessions in general, and then this is sort of about
evolving. Yeah.
Let's keep it like this then. Okay, so is everybody happy with this? Can we vote? It doesn't have to be perfect. This is obviously, if we are going to say it is a discovery and unfolding, we can't make this final. We can change it in the future. If we go back in 3 months and say this is not valid anymore, then we change it.
Sure. No, but it's so useful. Yeah.
So I've added some dots at the top, like a purpley bluish color. There should be 3 for each. If you can take 3 dots and put them on the cluster or the word that you feel most strongly about.
I think, does Mona not have any dots?
Oh,
She's not on the board, so that will be very
Huh?
hard for her
I
to.
think
tell me.
she could message someone to, and we
Yeah,
can move
yeah.
her dots for her.
Yes,
sure.
Mona, I am monitoring the chat, so if you do want to
Sorry,
say
I had to step away for a moment. What's
it's
the story
fine.
with the
You
dot?
did say that you are just going to listen. If you want to vote for which ones are the most important to you, they are grouped in clusters. You can either try and get in the board if you want, or you can write in the chat and I will vote on your behalf. You get 3 votes, so either you will have to choose between them. And if you don't want to, that's also fine, because one of the things that we said is important is that everything should be voluntary. And I keep wanting to press on the Zoom screen. So there's Mona's votes if she wants to. And if you strongly feel about one thing, you can put all 3 your votes on one, as opposed to 1, 1, 1, but you just can't vote more than 3 times.
I put my votes in the chat.
Cool.
There seems to be a dot way over here. Is that okay?
Yes,
Oh, there's 3 dots.
these
Okay.
3, yep, those 3 are
Those are Mona's dots.
Mona's. This is mine.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, we voted for everything.
Well, that's good, I suppose.
Mona, I just want to make sure that you say you want to add it in the chat.
I did add it in the chat. I put the top one, equity, and leave no one behind. And
Oh, it's not on my chat. Equity.
I think I'm direct messaging Blaise. Who's Blaise?
Oh, I'm Blaise. Sorry.
Then you should take ownership, Blaise, and
I'm sorry.
move it.
Yep, sorry about that.
I don't know.
Thanks.
I don't know how
You're doing
why
good.
that happened. Sorry.
It's fine. That's why I asked, because I saw it's not in the
taking
chat,
it.
and then I looked in Slack and it wasn't there. That's why
Sorry
I
about
thought,
that.
let me just ask
got
to
it.
make sure. Maybe you're still thinking.
Equity. Okay. And safety money. Okay, got it.
Thank you, Blaise.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Thanks, Mona. So we've got a clear winner, which is the cluster about equity, leave no one behind, choice, belonging. And then the second most important one is the learning and the discovery, the curiosity, and then safety and judgment or inclusion was also a big one, with the collaboration and the commitment. So what I suggest we do is that we leave it here for the moment, and then we can continue the conversation in Slack with all the other people as well. to maybe narrow down to choose a representative word for this. I will do a little bit of work and publish a updated version of this manifesto, and then we can decide if that's good enough, or do you agree with that? Cool. So that was wonderful. Thank you for your input. And now we can continue with a normal ensemble, I think.
Thanks, Kate.
Matt?
Yeah. Does anybody, I think what's been working really well for us is using VS Code.
Yes.
So with the live share. So does anybody want to volunteer to be the host of that live share, or shall I do it?
You're so good with it.
Also, I need to.
Does anybody want to practice or learn with it? Bias for learning.
Bias for learning,
Not
sure.
yet.
I'm happy to do it. I just need to drop at what do you call it? In 15 minutes.
In 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Yeah,
Demi
so
also said he needed to.
Well, we may run out of folk anyway, but okay, I don't mind driving. So I'll just bring my terminal over onto the screen, and I did make a repo last week. Now, what did we call it? Because we're not stale, as retire, no, inactive
right.
contributor bot. There we go. So I don't think there's been any changes in the meantime.
And I ran through the scenarios again to make sure that it maps to my thinking. And that's where I came up with a question. Is it an and or a or? Can you be, because I was thinking of an example of Josh, who is an infrequent contributor, but he does contribute maybe once every year and a half. So he would move to the alumni, but then he commits again. Does he stay in the alumni and in the committers, or is it an or relationship? Because if that is the case, then the second rule is wrong. Otherwise, it is correct.
Okay, so just I'm slightly distracted by the mechanics. Let me just make sure we've got a mob timer, and then we can.
I understand. I get what you're saying, Kate. Yeah.
I'm going to put the link for the mob timer in the Slack. Okay, so we want to add everybody who's participating in here. So we've got Demi, we've got Kate, we've got Blaise, we've got Matt. And Mona, you are merely spectating right now. You do not want to join in the mob, is that right? She might even not be listening right now. If you want to, just shout and then we can add you in. And then the other thing I need to do is VS Code live share. So I need to go.
I got my password this time.
Share it. And I'm going to send this round in a DM. So, or I could use the Zoom chat if I knew how to get the chat window. Here it is. I can use the Zoom chat. Okay, so everybody should be able to see the live share link in the Zoom chat.
Yep.
It's fine, thank you. And I'm going to get this mob timer window and make it stand alone. And I'm going to bring it down here. You previously enabled sound effects. Do you want to enable them this time? Yeah, why not? Let's have sound effects. Don't really need a browser.
Nothing is happening.
What do you mean? What were you expecting to happen? I don't see any participants showing up on my VS Code window yet. Are you?
We've got load shedding, which means that the electricity and the internet goes down, and it's currently down. So if I run out of battery power, that's why.
Wow. Okay, that's exciting.
I'm in.
Great. So, Demi, the random. Can you see the mob timer?
Yep.
I don't think
didn't
my
realize
internet
I
is
was
good
on.
enough to.
Yeah,
It's not doing anything.
Yeah, it's got you as the navigator first, but you're not in VS Code Live Share yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to set that up right now. I'm on my personal computer and I haven't been on this in a while.
Okay. So you're jumping through.
I don't think.
Logging into
I think you
GitHub and
need to
stuff.
take me out.
How do you mean, Kate? Oh, your internet's not good enough. Take you out of the mob rotation.
If you like, I can drive now, and then somebody can drive later. Just tell me what to type.
Let's move it down. So there we go. We've got, but I think Demi's a little bit distracted as well.
Sure, I'm happy to type.
Just trying to figure out. I clicked the link, but it doesn't take me right to the code sharing.
Yes.
Did it take you to a browser window where you've got the?
Yeah, it took me to a browser window.
Yeah, it started doing that now. I can't. There's some. You do get some kind of an option to open it in VS Code instead of in the browser. You might need to close the browser and click the link again, and just watch carefully. And there's a pop up or something that comes in where you can choose between.
All right.
Okay, it's gone. Yeah, Demi's in. Woo! So I'll take Kate out of the rotation for now because we can always add her back in. All right. Well, the mob timer says the first team is Blaise navigating, Demi driving. So shall we just start and see how we get on?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've started the timer.
So, where did we leave off? We had our rules.
Following Matt.
This is all really new to Demi as well. I guess you probably not had a chance to watch the video to catch up from last week. So you might have some questions about the context that we're working in, Demi.
I was following the Slack a little bit, so I do have a little bit of context.
Oh, so I guess the most immediate question that came up was Kate's question about whether they should be removed from the alumni group upon reinstatement. I think it's not a problem to leave them in the alumni group because the alumni group is read-only. So any team membership would override the alumni group membership.
Yeah.
In the GitHub permissions model.
Yeah.
So, and there might be some advantage emotionally to being in the alumni group because it's kind of like a special recognition. So I don't know if we need to stipulate that. I think she felt that, for example, if someone was reinstated, let's see.
Yes.
If someone was reinstated.
The second scenario, Aslak has been active within the past year.
Oh, I see. Right.
So the last and might be invalid if it is
that's true.
Or and. That depends. But that's a business rule.
Yeah, I think that we
So Matt, what do you want it to be?
You just did there. You just deleted a line. I don't.
I'm sorry that I should not have done that.
Well, it's all right. I just didn't understand why we were doing that.
Yeah. So what happens is this is not actually a requirement. In other words, if someone is reinstated, they may remain. They may be allowed to remain.
Somebody being reinstated in this scenario. This is just a scenario about somebody who is continuing to be active.
Oh, we don't have a scenario for reinstatement.
Yeah. That's the problem.
We don't even have a rule about reinstatement. We have a question.
I see.
Yes. So my question was, if you have John, who contributed a year and a half ago, so he's in the alumni, and now he contributes again, should he be in the alumni and in the committers, or should he only be in the committers? Because if that is the case, then this last and would be a conflict.
Yeah, for John it would be. But there's a different scenario. So why don't we try and write the scenario? So we have a rule. Okay. Oh, I'm trying to type. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Demi should type.
That is your job, and I just took it over.
So do rule colon.
Yeah, so what's the rule again?
So type in rule colon.
Okay. Oh, following Matt just keeps taking me. How do I unfollow?
I don't know. You're both following me.
No, but I can type.
Never mind. Yeah.
You have a cursor.
Isn't it in the top right-hand corner?
Nah, I'm good. I'm good. So what's the rule?
So the rule is, oh God, Matt, what did we say the rule was?
Well, we haven't decided, but I think we could try and decide as we type it out. So
okay.
The rule is either that that people who have become active again, formerly inactive, who contribute again, should either remain in the alumni group or are removed from the alumni group again, right? We have to just make a decision.
Okay.
Alumni becomes committed again.
So that's the scenario, right? The scenario is an alumni commits.
Right.
Commits
so
again.
I guess the rule is basically alumni remain.
Yeah, perfect, Demi.
Alumni.
Well, it's probably simplest if we just leave them there, but it's probably also not that neat, is it? It's a bit confusing because you can have somebody who's both in committers and in alumni. So I think ideally we would move them out of alumni when they go back into committers.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, I guess it will depend what you plan to do with the data in the future. Right now, it's not really an important whether it is an and or an R. It will only be dependent on what you decide to do with the data. If you decide to reward alumni or just committers, then it might become a conflict.
Yeah, and I suppose it's interesting data if you've got somebody who's in both, right? Because if you move them out of alumni, then you don't know that they
were there
had
before.
Retired for a while. And that might be data, if you have several people in that category, maybe that's data that the 1 year window is too short and we should be leaving it longer before we retire people. Yeah. So it's maybe,
I'm thinking,
you're convincing me it's a good
I'm
idea
thinking it might be
them.
a problem in terms of the bot and permissions, because if you are in the alumni, you don't have permissions, but in the committees, you do have permissions. And that's, I think, where the problem might come in.
There's no harm in them being in both. Because the alumni doesn't give you anything other than if somebody goes and looks at your GitHub profile, it says that you're still a member of the Cucumber organization because you're in a team on the Cucumber organization. But by being in the alumni team, you get no rights from that, but it doesn't take your rights away. So if you're in the alumni team and you're in the committers team, you will still have all of the rights that a committer gets. It's just that you're also in the alumni team, which is a signal that at some point you didn't contribute for a year. So,
right. I mean, I guess it's a random idea, but I'm not sure if how you folks are going with this, but maybe active and alumni really aren't the only two groups. Maybe it's more active and inactive is sort of a identifier for any user at any time. And then alumni versus maybe some other group and some unnamed group would refer to an alumni as someone who had retired in the past, and they are probably inactive or active, but now active and inactive isn't two groups, it's just identifying any member of Cucumber. But that alumni could be active or it could be inactive at any given time. Just the alumni is that they were once retired.
Yeah, and I think that's right. So the alumni is like a nice thing that we do additionally. The important thing to do from a security point of view is if they
Right.
become inactive, we remove their right access.
Right.
That's the
Right.
important thing that we do. And then if they
Right.
if they become active again, we give them right access again. That's great. But the important thing is that after a year we take it away so that
Right.
you know, if their account gets hacked, they can't accidentally damage something.
Right.
So that's actually a really good point.
So yeah, so basically the rule is not, it's not so much that people go from active to alumni, it's that they go from active to inactive.
Right.
So for security reasons, we want to make people inactive, and for community reasons, we want to recognize their
Yeah, so we should actually split this bit up here, I think.
Yeah.
But now we need to start a new turn with a mob.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Kate. And you seem to me like you're good to be added back into the group, into the rotation as well.
No,
internet seems okay.
No, my internet just doesn't allow the VS Code to load at all. I think it's trying to download. I don't know, but it's just not working very well.
It does need
So
quite
I'll
a
just
lot of bandwidth to make it work, the VS Code.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't drive.
Unfortunately, I'm on mobile.
Oh, you can navigate. That's true.
Yes.
Let's put you in the rotation, and if it's your turn to drive, we'll just have to figure it out. Is that all right? Okay, right. So right now we have Demi is navigating, and I am driving. I've seen a start. I'm trying to press start turn, and it's not working. Oops, the WebSocket disconnected. Reconnect. Okay.
So it's not just my internet. Africa is influencing the whole world.
The way it should be. Okay, I am Matt and I am driving.
So
I'm navigating.
you get to tell Matt what to do.
Bye, everybody.
So it seems we were sort of oh, I think Blaise dropped off the call. But it seems we were sort of like pivoting towards formerly inactive users who are now active should be given right status again.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether that's the job of this. Like, we have another bot that should probably do that will probably do that already. So I'm not sure whether this bot needs to take responsibility for that.
All right, so
and we can
they should just be marked as active then.
Yeah, well, there isn't really a way of marking someone as active. Like, I don't know how you would mark a user as active. What we can do here is we can either revoke their access if they've become inactive, or we could revoke their access to the alumni group if they become active again. But I think we just decided that we wouldn't. So
yeah,
formerly inactive.
So we had two use cases. The one was an inactive guy that hasn't contributed in like a decade. He's clearly inactive and he needs to be to the alumni and his rights removed. The second example was an active contributor which contributes like regularly, and he needs to be in the committers and he shouldn't be in the alumni. Yeah. So now there's a third example that we need to cater for, which is an irregular contributor. He has contributed in the past and he then were moved to the alumni, but now he wants to commit again. So now what? That's what this one is about.
Yeah. I don't think you need to move them out of that alumni team, because chances are if they're coming back again, it's probably for a temporary status. If they spent that long off again. So like remaining in the alumni group should probably be the go-to in that scenario. Like sort of like if you're retired, like chances are you're going to be retired a long time. And if you came back, like I don't think you'd be staying for long.
Well,
I don't know.
So can we just then copy the Aslak one?
Right.
I'm just going to write this up a little bit. want me to copy the ASLAC one? This one? Okay, so
Well,
given
I
a user
guess
Demi,
Demi
so what's the context here? Is
is
part of
part of the alumni team.
Yeah.
And the create date was,
This feels awkward, this one, the way it says the create date of their last commit.
yes, that's correct.
Yeah, 1 day ago, right? So they committed recently. Yeah. When the bot runs.
Because the bot runs
then,
daily, right?
Well, whatever we say, but yeah, that's what I think we just suggested before. Then Demi should still be. So it's not a matter of being still in the committers team anymore, is it? And in fact, the point is, right? Yeah, and then Demi should still be in the alumni.
Just take out the word still, I guess.
Yeah, well, they are still in the alumni team, though, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Still.
okay, okay.
And we're not going to say anything about whether they're in the committers team or not. I think this.
He should be added to the committees team.
Well, I'm not sure whether that's the job of this bot, because we already have a bot which invites people into the committers team when they make their first contribution. I'm not sure right now how that bot will behave when somebody goes inactive and then comes back again. But I kind of feel like we'd be starting to tread on its toes a bit if this one is doing too much at the moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
So we'll need to kind of look at that.
So Demi says he's got to drop off.
Right.
And I can't really type. So should we call it a day maybe and just do a retrospective?
Yeah, maybe we should. Yeah, I think that's a good call, Kate. And we're only half an hour out of finishing anyway, aren't we now? So yeah, we could do the retro in this repo. And I could do retro add. And then I'll use VS Code for editing it so we can all type. I'll close the Vim window so we haven't got a swap file. So who have we had all together?
Blaise, Demi, Mona, Kate, and Matt.
And what did we do? So everybody can type in here if you still have a cursor. I don't know who's left. Demi, you're still here for a few more minutes, aren't you? When do you need to go? Got to drop off.
So it's sort of like, yeah. I have to pick something up, and then I have a meeting for work at like 12:15. So it's sort of like,
no.
I'm in a hurry.
See if we
but
can
like,
grab an insight or two off you before we finish. So what happened? Tell me what happened. We
decided, or at least voted on some key words / phrases for the manifesto.
Yeah.
And we updated the test cases.
Can I call them scenarios?
Scenarios for the bot.
Uh-huh. Yes.
We elected to invite the rest of the Slack channel to further hone, or at least finalize the manifesto.
Yes. That it's more inclusive, living our values.
All right. Do you think I'm good now?
So what did you like?
The insights piece is like likes, dislikes, puzzles. Yeah, anything that made you go ooh or or
I like the reinstatement of the mob timer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you didn't like something that should be better.
Maybe things with like the workflows and all that. I know like these things are just like we hop on a call and we sort of decide things on the call. But yeah, it probably wasn't the smoothest workflow. As far as like, for example, Mona couldn't get on the Miro board, and Kate couldn't get on the VS Code. So all those different things, maybe the workflow could be a little bit smoother. Um,
Yeah, maybe we could prepare it a bit more in advance.
yeah,
Like if we decided who was going to host or the VS Code, then that link could go out to everybody before we even start.
right,
That
right.
seems like an action.
All right.
Good point. And then if you don't have anything else, then we
Thanks, Demi.
Sounds good. Bye.
Have a good week.
thank you.
ya.
Bye.
Bye.
So Mona, if you want to add something, I will go in the meantime. What I liked was the continuity again, that we said that we wanted to have an agenda beforehand, and we did it. So it's following through. And I liked the input and the diversity. It's not just me coming up with a manifesto, it was a bunch of ideas from different people. That to me was very valuable as well. And I liked also the fact that we are working on something little by little, and it's growing every time. I like to see the progress.
The bot.
Yes, it's a project, not just a bug to fix. I mean, the small things are handy for some things, but I really like the continuity that you actually have something to look forward to and see it grow. And in terms of what can get better, I don't really have anything to add this time, except I agree with him. The technical issues was a little bit of a bummer, but it was also not that bad. But yes. So that's me.
Okay. Well, I could go. I just want to appreciate the work you did between sessions, Kate, to write up the checklist, which we haven't shown on the screen actually, for the mob.
Oh, it's a pleasure. That took me like 15 minutes.
Well, it looks
that was
great, and it's very clear, and it really summarized everything we discussed really nicely. Yeah, and I think it's going to be a really helpful artifact. And I also liked that you suggested what to do yesterday, because I have a really bad habit of only remembering to do that at the end of my Thursday, when I think, it's the beginners ensemble. God, it's Thursday already. It's the beginners ensemble tomorrow. I'd better write something in the channel. And by the time I remember that at the end of my day on Pacific time, most people in Europe have already gone to bed. So It was really great that you thought of that and did that. And it's also, for me, it's nice to feel this ensemble start to come alive and have its own life, that you were doing that instead of it having to be me remembering to do that. So that was really nice. It's starting to take on a life of its own.
Well, I say that if you say something, then you should do it. And I said that, or we said last time, that we want to have an agenda beforehand. So that's why I did it. Yeah. But I also thought it was good because it just gives a little bit more structure so that people know what to expect.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's really important. I'm sloppy about remembering to do it until the end of my day, and then it's actually a bit pointless. So yeah, I just appreciated on both those counts that it was you. It wasn't me having to do it, and you did a better job of it than I would as well, because you did it earlier on.
Thank you.
And it was just great. We got Demi back, and I was nice to see Mona show up. Have you got anything to say in the in the retro, Mona? I don't know if you're listening.
I'm checking the chat if you want to type it there.
I'm listening. I'm just away from my keyboard and I'm on mute. Yeah, it was. I think it was my first time joining the ensemble, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there was that one-on-one session we had,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that was supposed to be an ensemble or.
No, I think we just booked that one-to-one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess today was different, but yeah, I'd like to join more of them. It's just like my schedule is it's tricky because I have to kind of try to work in a compressed amount of time, and because I have my child coming back from school afterwards, and it's tricky to work. So
Yes.
So appreciate what all of you are doing. It was fun to hear about the manifesto, and I think it's great.
Cool.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here. It's as we said in that workshop, you know, it's great. People can just show up for as much as they can, and even people leaving early or arriving late, like the ensemble can absorb that. It's fine. So yeah, I hope you'll manage to squeeze it in again, because it's been nice to have you here.
I mean, that you know, I guess this was a good first session because that was very encouraging with all of that talk of exactly what you said, you know.
Yeah, and what we realized
Yeah, and
is
I
that
actually
we need
like
to be
the
explicit about that stuff, Kate, right? Like we need to make sure we've written it down and we say it at the beginning of every session, so it's clear to everybody that's our intention. This is the way it's going to go, and it also reminds us, if we're still doing this in 6 months or a year's time, remind us why we're doing it.
yes. And I actually like the observer role. That was the role that I wanted to do the first time, and then you made me type. But I love that. I love that people can just watch and observe, because that's also still included. And if you want to jump in, you can, but there's no pressure. I'm one for nothing should be. You should never feel pressurized to do anything.
And there's something in my experience of mobbing that is actually really valuable about someone who isn't super connected to the minutiae of what's being typed in, because they can retain a more holistic perspective of either like group dynamics or why are we even doing this thing in the first place? Shouldn't we be doing this other thing that's more important or whatever? So you can kind of have a more of a helicopter view that's somebody needs to have. So yeah, it can be really helpful.
You see different things.
So we've said a bunch of stuff there that we didn't write, but I don't know how to say it actually. Maybe I don't need to write it down.
In terms of the actions we need to, or I will commit to update the manifesto and just take it to the next step in the Slack channel.
Great. Thanks, Kate.
So follow through there.
I mean, I can, if it's all right. I don't. Yeah, I'm conscious of not like taking over by hosting the VS Code session, but maybe it's simpler for now if I do, because everybody still gets to type, right? So maybe I'll just host the VS Code live, share, and send out the link beforehand.
I mean, you can always open the invitation in the Slack channel to say if anybody wants to let me know or something. But I do think practically it's just better because you've got all the right access and the tools set up and the repository. It's just easier.
Yeah, and also the internet connection here is strong. I'm plugged Ethernet into fiber, so there's a less likelihood. Because this is kind. I think the way it works is it's not peer-to-peer. Like you all connect into my machine to send files to it and pull files from it. So. I've definitely experienced before when I used to live in rural Scotland and I had a very crappy internet connection. I couldn't use VS Code Live Share because it a bit like what you're experiencing, maybe, Kate. It just it didn't have the bandwidth to
yes,
work.
because it was just a blank screen, and then I tried again and again and again, and it would load a little bit more, but it just wouldn't connect. And
So I think maybe
previously I didn't have a problem at all.
Yeah, so maybe it's just your internet today. But I think it would
Well,
help
yeah,
probably
we've got load shedding.
if I get it ready like half an hour beforehand and I share the link. That gives everybody a bit of time to fiddle about at their end with anything that they might need to do, right? And then we're not trying to do that on the fly during the call. So that's a good learning.
And maybe we can also just include the Miro board, that there's a standard whiteboard where we can make notes, and it can just be the one that we continue using the whole time, so that we can go back to it, because it's got an infinite canvas.
Yeah, so I can put those links in like the calendar invite and in the Slack channel, and then we've got those as sort of I don't know if there's anywhere else really. Yeah, and then we've got a board that we can scribble on. Good. I think that's it for actions this week for me.
Yep.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Kate. Thanks, Mona. Good to see you.
Thank you. And I still want to ask you, what is the Kuchen space?
Aha. Right. So, well, we used to have a physical in-person conference in London once a year, and the way we would run it was it would be 2 days, and the first day would be a single track of talks, and then the second day would be an open space. So you kind of warm everybody up with a programmed event, and you sit and listen to speakers, and then the second day everybody runs sessions, and we had it in multiple rooms. It was in the same venue, but the second day was, spread across multiple rooms and run as an open space. But since the pandemic, we can't really do that. So we've been trying to do something a little more low key, but also still keeping that spirit of open space. And last year in about June, I think, we used a thing called Gather Town. Have you ever seen that?
I love Gather. It's
Right.
like the coolest cool. I love it.
So
it's so much better than Zoom.
Yeah. Well, but you can combine it with Zoom. So that's what we did.
But why would you need Zoom if you've got Gather? What can you not do in Gather that you can do in Zoom?
I'm trying to remember now. I thought there were some places where we had a Zoom call that you could kind of wander over to and join. I can't really remember the details. But
there are places where you can have a video linked to it, or a breakout kind of room, but you do that within it. But okay, yes, so you can combine it.
We used GatherTown as the hosting space anyway, and we used it to run an open space. So we created rooms within Gather beforehand, and then we used a Miro board to draw up an agenda, and we had an open space marketplace, and we scheduled the sessions. And when we invited people from the community to come. And the wonderful thing about these events is there's things that you can do, that you can bring up in a session like that is much harder to do over GitHub or in Slack conversations, because you get like-minded.
So is it for the community?
Yeah.
And is it to raise awareness, or is it like a user group where we work together or learn together, or what is the purpose of the?
Well, the purpose is to give the community a space to grow. So whether that is by teaching stuff, some of the people in the community who are the elders in the community can share stuff that they know about, either about how to contribute to the open source or about the BDD techniques that we use in the community. So it can be that kind of stuff, but it can also be people coming with challenges or puzzles about how the community is working. Like, how do we increase the diversity of the community? What can we do about the state of things as they are right now? Or so it can be, the types of sessions that we'd see at an open space could be somebody just presenting, this is a really cool way that we've implemented Cucumber in my workplace, and you might want to hear our story. But it might also be somebody coming along saying, I remember many years ago, the first one that we had, we actually rented an Airbnb in Copenhagen, and there were about 12 of us there, and that was the time we looked around the room and went, gosh, look, everybody's a white guy. Maybe we should have a code of conduct for our open source project, and that was where we made that decision many years ago. So yeah, you can have lots of different kinds of discussions. It's just we're just hosting a space for the community to come together and talk about whatever it needs to talk about.
Cool. Then I'll definitely want to join.
Yeah.
I just didn't know. I just saw the link like Q space one day or many days, but I think many days would make sense.
That's my bias. I went to an event last summer where we did an hour and a half every day through the week, and I found that worked much better for my energy levels than trying to do a virtual conference for like 6 hours in a day, because I just find it exhausting to be on continuous. It's exhausting enough to be in a real life conference, right? But when you 6 hours of like wearing your headphones and handling difficult audio and stuff, it's just knackering. So I found it much better in that way. But I also found there were some really interesting things that happened when you were just dipping in, because you couldn't do that for a physical conference, right? If you had a physical conference, it was just an hour and a half every day. You had to be away from your family for a whole week for just an hour and a half each day. What were you going to do the rest of the day? Go and sit in your hotel room or go and see the sights in whatever town you're in? It wouldn't work, would it? So this is kind of like an advantage of having a virtual conference, is that you can do it like that. And the cool thing,
and if you want inclusive and diversity, then it's also much better, because anybody in the entire world can join.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, or whether it was harder for people to get time off work if it was spread through a week. That was one of the things we weren't sure about. But the really cool thing that happened at this one I went to last summer was, because you had that cadence, like me and this guy were pairing one day, and we like had some insights in the thing that we were working on, and then he went home and wrote a blog post that night about the insights we'd had, and then he shared that with the group. And then the next day, everybody came back, they'd read that blog post, and then the work that the group were doing the next day was like responding to the insights that he'd shared in that blog post.
Nice.
And you wouldn't have had time to do that kind of deep thinking and writing in the rush of a compressed conference where it was all happening straight away. So I thought it was really cool to have that kind of downtime and then starting again. So I hope we do it like that. That's definitely my bias.
Will there be deep dives and shorter sessions as well? Because I do find with the open spaces, if it's only 20 minutes, for example, for sessions, then it's not enough to actually do a workshop or to dive deeply into something. It's literally just you're touching the surface.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just want that, and other times you want to dive deeper. Or is it standard 1.5 hours?
Well, I think 1.5 hours for a session would be quite long. I don't know. It's too early to
for one session in the open space, or the entire open space?
No, the entire open space, I would imagine we'll aim for about a day's worth of time altogether, whether we compress that in or spread it over a few days. And I would hope that, I think my experience is you can if you pick the time, around about 40 minutes usually feels about right to me. For sessions, you can always spread them back to back, or sometimes people end up just staying in the room. And that's the other thing about virtual ones, is like each room, GatherTown's different, isn't it? Because you have a physical space and people do actually wander into it in the 2D space. But sometimes you just end up going off somewhere else to keep the conversation going, right? If it's a good conversation, or you find another space to have it in later in the timetable.
That sounds really cool. I look forward to that.
Yeah, great. Should be in April sometime. We'll just keep an eye on what we're saying about
Slack.
it, and feel free to have your say about what your preferences would be for the format, because we need to listen to people and find out what works for the most people, because everybody's got their own preferences. Yeah.
I will do that.
Okay, well, I should stop
thank
the
you.
stream. So let's say goodbye to anybody watching out there. I don't know if anybody is. I haven't been monitoring. Bye, streamers.